All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Quick show today. We've got Ohio State Buckeyes live at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we've got about 50 minutes or so with all of you. And of course, we would love you to join the show. We have left the link in the chat. So if you want to give me a call. So here's the deal. Let's get to it. This is the still nameless college football show. Still the best one, but the nameless one. So those two things don't really go together too well. Kind of sell it. Difficult to sell it as the best college football show when it's nameless. So we do appreciate your suggestions. And later this week, when we've got more time, either on Thursday or Friday, we will run down all of your suggestions. So please leave those suggestions. Keep them coming, whether those be in the comment section. I will catch them in the comment section. And then also, if you want to send them directly to MarkRogersTV at Gmail, do not put them in the chat. I will miss them for sure. But if you've got any suggestions for a show, we've had some good ones, 15 to 20 suggestions. Then if your suggestion is the winner, then you will get some free gear at the Voice of College Football merch store of your choice. So if you want to gouge me, then you just look for the most expensive thing and it's yours. All right. Thanks for being here at the Voice of College Football. And yeah, Buckeyes at 11. That's on the Ohio State channel. Florida State at 6, Miami at 7. We've got the West Virginia show with Frank Fear and company, Mountaineer Locker Room at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And speaking of college football show names, I thought, hey, it worked for Johnny Carson for years, of course. It was The Tonight Show. It was always The Tonight Show, but it was so, in fact, linked to him that after a while, I grew up just thinking it's the Johnny Carson show. It's Johnny Carson. I didn't think The Tonight Show, but it was still The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. So this could be the college football show, Mark Rogers, or become the Mark Rogers College Football Show. We may go that simple. However, I did look this up. Just put in college football show. Are there any shows out there that say college football show? Now, I'm not too concerned about the guy that started his college football show in his basement, and he's got 13 subscribers, and it's called College Football Show, and he shut down after 5 months. Don't care about those guys. So I did see Barstool College Football Show. I know nothing about it. I assume it's still going. I think that they are still up and running from what I know. I never see anything from Barstool. I assume that they're still alive and well. Oh, they sponsored a bowl game the last 2 years. Then we've got the number one college football show. Came across that iteration as well. The number one college football show. All right. We are brought to you this week here at the Voice of College Football by Chris Gates Fitness. Training Camp is the new online workout system that could change your life. I know it's football season. I know your minds are wrapped up in football and everybody's hitting fall practice this week. We're all geared up for it. But you know what? You're actually more important than your favorite team. I know that's a shock to many. That is probably inconceivable to many of you, that actually your well-being is more important than your football team and knowing all their stats and all the depth charts. So invest in your health. And we got Chris Gates Fitness and the Training Camp program. Chris is a huge football fan, and we will tell you about it here in just a few minutes. The link is in the description section of the video. So, hey, before I hit you with a big promo, you might as well just take $10 for the first month for an online set of workouts that are fresh every day, new workouts every day with instruction on how to do the workouts with a community that's included so you can lean on others for inspiration, encouragement, help, that sort of thing. And that is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you get. $10 for the first month. Grab the link in the description section of the video. All right. Teams are just hitting practice just in the last few days. Now, we did a Florida State record with our buddy Logan Robinson from Noel Game Day on Tuesday, and be looking out for those videos on the Florida State channel. We ran through the offense and the defense at Florida State. Interesting football team with DJ Uiagalelei at quarterback, and a lot of new faces, as is typical for just about every college football team, excluding a few. And why did I bring that up? Oh, because it's fall practice. And everybody's starting either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday this week. Seemingly like 90% of the country starting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. Although, remember, week 0 is Florida State, Georgia Tech. So we get treated to an ACC game in Dublin, Ireland on August 24th. I can't wait to watch some football that counts. It's an ACC game. Probably not going to be the best game in the world. Shoot, they're traveling 4,000 miles. I don't know what it is from the southern portion of the United States over to Dublin, Ireland. Who knows what could happen? Georgia Tech could certainly stay in the game. You remember a few years ago, Nebraska was a 12 or 13 point favorite against Northwestern. I know that was Nebraska, and they disappoint constantly. But they were a 12 or 13 point favorite against Northwestern, and of course lost to a team that then lost 11 consecutive games. That's Nebraska football right there. That's how bad it's been at Nebraska. 2-touchdown favorite, opening day, and they lose that game. And then the team that they lost to proved that they couldn't beat anyone else. 0-9 in the Big Ten, 0-11 otherwise. But that was the Scott Frost Nebraska team that looked very much like the Matt Rule year 1 Nebraska team that ended most of its games the same way. All right. Now, because camp just started here, either it's about to get underway, depending on your team, or it just did here in the last day or two. You know, people want information out of camp. We don't have information. Basically, nobody's got information. When we talked to Logan Robinson, Noel Game Day, on a Tuesday about Florida State, keep in mind they had been in camp for a week, and he had been out to practice, but still very little there. This guy looks good. He looks good. He's got to come around a little bit. Those sorts of tidbits are out there for Florida State and Georgia Tech, but they're the only two teams that have been practicing for a week. So it's going to be a week to 10 days, something like that, unless, God forbid, there's a major injury. And then we will, of course, hear about that. But if guys get nicked up, we won't hear much about that unless they're held out of practice, and media members will notice and then be able to report, so-and-so missed practice today. We don't know what's going on. And then they will ask the coach, and the coach will probably cover it up as best he can. But if there is some kind of season-ending injury, those will be announced. And the odds say 135 football teams out there playing FBS football, and it happens every year. 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 guys will get knocked out for the entire season by blowing out a knee or something in a drill. All right, once again, we're sponsored today and for the rest of the week here at the Voice of College Football by Chris Gates Fitness and his training camp program. Check it out. The link is in the description section of all the videos here at the Voice of College Football. All right. So I belong to about 40 college football Facebook groups. I don't interact with them. I don't read them. You know, I can't help but notice at times because it's on my feed, not my personal feed, but it's on the business, the Voice of College Football feed when something pops up. And you know how these fan pages are. They're ridiculous. They are ridiculous. They trash their rivals. They have fun. That's what they're there for. You should not be going to fan pages on Facebook for hardcore analysis or anything reasonable. You probably shouldn't be going to Facebook for anything reasonable about anything in life. But I bring that up because, so I am a member of all these groups. And so you would say, Mark, why are you a member of all these groups if you don't want to see that stuff and you don't partake in it? Well, it's because I can drop a link and say, hey, we've got the Iowa show today at 5:30 Eastern time. Boom, here it is. Corey, Brad, and myself. I can obviously promote the shows. And so lo and behold, all the Facebook pages I have subscribed to and become a member are all the team channels and the team shows that we have. So I am not a Georgia Facebook fan person, for example, because we don't have a Georgia show. All right. So these, what I see over and over and over from these fan pages, and I see it on social media, and that's about the only place I would see it, over and over and over and over and over, even with the season just about to start. I guess this might be the end of this type of discussion, but I come across it almost every day. What do you think it is? Who's a blue blood? Come across this all the time on these Facebook pages. I see it on Twitter all the time. X, see it all the time. Who's a blue blood? Okay. So I'm sure all of you have your opinion on who's a blue blood. Here's my take. Here it is. Number one, I don't use the term. I don't like the term. It doesn't offend me or bother me to that extent. I don't mean I don't like it, like I refuse to use it or discuss it. I mean, I don't personally use it because of how I believe it came to be and the proper usage of the term blue blood. I use the term elite. And right now in college football, using the term elite, there are 4 elite programs for sure. 4. I would think that most of you could guess those 4 programs. I believe there are 4 elite programs right this second. And then I would consider one to have slipped out of the elite category. And then for generally 2 others, to be on the cusp, I need to see a little bit more out of 2 other programs to call them elite. Like I need to see another playoff season, another big season or 2, probably 2. One of these programs just went to the college football playoff and did absolutely nothing before that, except for arguably one season in 2018, going all the way back to 2009. You should be able to fill in the blank there. And then the other program has been super, super good about 10 to 15 years ago for about 5, 6, 7 years, fell off, came back, but not to an elite level. And we are still waiting for them to get elite. They look elite. They recruit elite. They have that aura of being currently elite, but they need to push through with major wins and elite type finishes. Now, last year was a borderline elite type finish for them. So again, I've got 4 elite programs and I've got 2 on the cusp and I've got 1 that just dropped off, and they could quickly come back if they would roll off some playoff seasons. So that's what I've got. I don't know what you guys are looking at in terms of elite. All right. It doesn't surprise me that Will ND is on it. He is on it. Like minds, Will. Great minds like minds. Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama. They're elite. They're elite. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, in whatever order you want to put them in, it doesn't really matter. I would put them in the order of Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State right now, but it doesn't really matter. Those are the 4 elite programs in college football. Those are the only 4. There's only 4. And then, as Will mentions here, Yes, Clemson. Clemson was elite from about 2015. Well, looking back, had they just boom, jumped up, played in a national championship game, and if that would have been it, then they would not have been elite. But that was the start of the elite run for Clemson to a certain extent. They were climbing before that as a top 10 team in 2011, 12, 13, 14 in that range. And then, and somebody's going to catch me when I said top 10 for Clemson. Oh, they were number 12 that year. Yes, you know what I mean. They were in the top 10 or 15. And then boom, 2015 through 2020. And then you can even give Clemson a year or two down and still keep them in that elite category. But now it's been 3 seasons of not being elite. They're not projected to be elite this year. They could win the ACC. Clemson could win the ACC. Here's a best case, but still not elite situation for Clemson this year. They could win the ACC. And because the Big 12 champion could be rather mediocre, Clemson could be the number 3 seed in the college football playoff at 11-2, let's say. Still not necessarily be elite. I would be holding out to watch their playoff run at that point to say, okay, is Clemson really back? And then if they lost their first playoff game, they would have a, let's say, 3-6 matchup, I think, in the second round. If they lost that game after going 11-2, no, they're not back. They're not elite. That was a good season, but they're not elite. So, Will ND, I'm right there with you. That's my take on elite. And if anybody has anything further on that, I think it's extremely clear cut. I don't know if we went season to season back in time and tried to put everything into context for that season and what preceded it. I don't know that we could come up with a clear delineation of elite versus non-elite. You know what? I'm going to add one other school to the cusp of elite. I'm going to add one other school. So I've got 3 now. So just reading Will's comment triggered one other one. So I would not be surprised if with Clemson dropping out of the elite, but with certainly an opportunity to jump back in, and with Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia being the only 4 elite, I would say that I've got 3 programs that have the opportunity to reach the elite fairly quickly. I don't know if I would name any of these elite if they had a big seat. Oh, if they won a national championship. If any one of these 3 won a national championship this year, I'd say, boom, okay, they jumped. But if they have a college football playoff appearance and win a game and then lose, and they finish 12-2, I would probably say, give me one more year. And I think that's, yeah, we got our helmets all over the place. I was going to do a visual display. I'll do a visual display. Who are our next 3 current elites? What do you think? Who? Well, Matthew's given me something to think about again. It would take a couple years for Florida State, but I could put them in the same category as one of these teams. So we'll go with 4. 4 that if they won the national championship, boom, they're elite. If they have a decent playoff run, I'm still holding out on them having to prove it again. Because to me, it's not TCU's elite because they went 13-2 and went to the playoff and won a game and went to the national championship. No, you got to sustain this. So, yeah, let's keep Florida State right there. Good call, Matthew. We'll keep Florida State right there. And maybe I'm missing someone. You know, USC could go 10-2, 11-1 for the next 3 years and make college football playoff appearances and make deep runs in the playoffs. And okay, they might be their USC. But I will say And LSU would be another one. They just won a national championship in 2020. They've been good under Brian Kelly. They've been good, top 15 good, but they're not elite right now. And if they make the playoff this year and lose a second round game, I'm not calling them elite, but they would have that opportunity as well. So maybe we've got 5 that have an opportunity in the next 2 or 3 seasons to become elite. Let's do that. I believe Florida State's one. Notre Dame is another one. Texas, probably the closest based on last season's performance. Texas. And then I will say, who was I thinking of? Oh, yeah. LSU. I had somebody else in mind, and I'm forgetting, and I think we could also add Penn State to that list. Penn State in the next 3 years goes to the college football playoff every year, and they win a national championship. After going 10-2, 10-2, 10-2, they would have made the playoffs 6 times in the last 10 years. They could be elite. I got to see it quite a few times out of Penn State, though. They got to give me 3 years. So I wouldn't put them quite there. I thought I had one other school, and now I've lost them. Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon. Yes. Oregon could be elite very quickly. They could get there very, very quickly. So these would be the 5, and I'll throw Penn State in there. 6 that have an opportunity to be elite soon. Okay. Everybody on board? Okay. All right. We're probably having the blue blood conversation in the chat, possibly, where people are confused at this point. These are not blue bloods. Elite. I care more about elite status. Are you elite? So, for example, Florida State's not elite. Have they been elite? Yes. Is Georgia a blue blood? No. Are they elite? Yes, they are elite. Georgia's elite right now. They are not a blue blood. The other elites right now, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, are Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State are blue bloods as well. Okay, we got that? Miami, 1983 on to 2002, 3, 4, when they started to decline. Elite. For 20 years, they were elite. Miami could not have been more elite for most of that 20 seasons. For 15 or 16 of those 20 years, from 1983 through 2003, 4, Miami, elite. Not a blue blood, not elite anymore. They lost their elite status. Clemson lost its elite status just recently. Okay. Now, blue bloods, here's my thought on blue bloods and why I don't care about blue bloods. I don't bring it up, but hey, you guys like it. People like it. People are tied to it. Now, if we truly go with the definition of blue blood, which means, where's the term come from? It's a royal term. It comes from your veins, your figurative veins, your lineage. That if there are, so for example, in the real world, when we look at royalty, there are bums on the street that are royalty. They are in a royal line. Now, do I know this for sure? No, I don't. But throughout history, there have been, heirs of fortunes and kingdoms who have lost their way or been kicked out of royalty. They're royalty, but they have been kicked to the curb and they don't look like it, but they are. You can't do anything about royalty. That's how you're born. You're born into royalty. A blue blood, So if we wanted to be technically correct in terms of blue bloods, all the blue bloods in college football would no longer be playing big time college football. The blue bloods would be Princeton, Harvard. I guess we would put Michigan there because they started winning national championships in 1901. Somebody's counting that. 1901, which leads me to something in just a second. And who else? Who else was back then? Was Penn? I don't know. The first 30 years of college football, 1869 is considered the first year of college football. The first 30 years are a mess, and they're inconsequential, and they don't matter. And really, everything before 1913 in the first forward pass, I discount. It doesn't matter. It matters in that it built the game. It was necessary to build the game. It was necessary to have a foundation. Everything has to start somewhere. And the contributions of those people, the coaches, the players, everybody involved, was substantial, was monumental to build the sport. But to consider those national championships, no. Sorry, no. Now, unfortunately, to me, there's no specific delineation. Like in 1920, that's illegitimate big time college football. And then suddenly in 1921, it was. No, it was a process of evolution, getting better and better and more legitimate every year. So there's kind of an understanding that once the sport was established, who were the powers in the sport? And so those powers in the sport that then maintained that for a considerable length of time, for decades, they are blue bloods. So it's not technically correct. Harvard and Princeton are blue bloods, and probably Michigan's a true blue blood. And I'm missing somebody in there. We could go back to the 1895 national championship season and all of that. But there's a lot of Harvard, there's a lot of Princeton winning national championships. I believe Harvard is tied with Alabama for the most national championships. Are we talking any Harvard football here? Would we have been talking Harvard football in 1975? No. We would not have been talking Harvard football in 1950. That's how long it's been. So those national championships, I'm sorry, Harvard, insignificant. So your blue bloods. I will bring up the case of one school that still plays, in a sense, based on your criteria, big time college football. And are they still a blue blood? Were they a blue blood? Nobody would consider them to be a blue blood. I never see them on a blue blood list, but based on people's definitions that I see of blue blood, except for some people that don't even understand the term, and they're basically just talking about elite programs right now. But if you truly understand the term blue blood and what we're talking about, you know what school gets left off of the blue blood list? That actually, if you truly take into account what blue blood means, which I just described as once the sport was established, who was dominant, and then carried that for at least a few decades. And then if you can't lose your blue blood status, they should still be a blue blood. Who do you think that would be? Do we have any guesses out there? Any guesses on who I'm talking about? Minnesota's a good guess. That's well done there, Aaron. I was not thinking of Minnesota. Army. I was thinking of Army, but Aaron's got a good one too. Minnesota. Is Minnesota a blue blood? Why are they not a blue blood? I think we need to revamp the blue blood. And this is why I don't like the whole blue blood thing. But I think we're going to come up with a true blue blood list. We are going to do this here at the Voice of College Football. And I got to say, for as much as I love all of you and want you to be here, and we we really want about 10 times as many people to be here. No, more than that, 100 times more people to be here watching our shows. Is we've got some unfinished business here. And this is what led me to this as well. I better keep track of time. Is that so we're in the process of doing program rankings for 2024. I think I'm going to go live this weekend, and we're just going to wipe out the rest. We're just going to take you through 134 all the way up to number 1. We produced a couple videos, but we're just going to wipe that out with a live stream. Boom, there's our program rankings for 2024. Okay, that's that. The next thing would be about 3 or 4 months ago, we delivered our all-time program rankings. And not to brag here, but I don't know anybody out there that's doing all-time program rankings that probably knows what they're talking about, number one. Number two, they don't go through the exhaustive process. Maybe they know what they're talking about, but they're just kind of estimating. No, we tallied national championships, conference championships, adjusted conference championships. What is that? Well, watch the videos. Heisman trophies, All-Americans, NFL draft selections, first-round selections, bowl games, bowl wins, major bowl wins, winning percentage, and probably 10 other things I forgot. So it's a legitimate metric system. But what we didn't do is finish off that series by putting it all together. We went conference by conference and sized it all up and put a point system to it. But to put it all together, I think we'll do that this weekend as well, or maybe next weekend. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some marathon sessions here at the Voice of College Football, because we're going to go through our 2024 program rankings. We're going to go through our all-time program rankings. And then this may take me all night, but we're going to do it. We've already gone through 2023 back to 1980 in adjusting the national championships. The national championships are a mess. I am not taking anybody else's count of national championships. When so-and-so fan base claims we've got 11 national championships or we got 6 national championships, I don't listen. I'm using those numbers currently because I have yet to vet the entire history of college football. But we are going to have our own list of national champions here at the Voice of College Football that actually makes sense. So we've done that for 2023 going back to 1980. I think we stopped there. So we got to go through the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and then we need to determine at what point college football truly started, where there can be an evaluation of a season and a national championship. For example, for those of you who are probably just getting to your keyboards or just about to type this out, Mark, they all count. Do they? Do they all count? Truly, they all count. All these national championships count. They should all count, really. Do you truly believe that? When do we stop counting national championships? Again, many of you will say from the beginning of college football. Okay, in 1869, look up 1869. Just put in 1869 college football season in the search. You know what you're going to find? 2 teams played 2 games. Rutgers and Princeton played 2 games. Rutgers gets the recognition for winning the very first college football game, and they did. However, within the next month, they played again, and Rutgers lost. So 2 teams played 2 games, and they split them. So you've got Rutgers at 1-1, and you've got Princeton at 1-1. And we are going to have people out there saying that that is a true season. with a national championship. Really, really. These are the same people that vote in elections. So, and it doesn't get much better from there. 5 years later, there's like 7 teams. They're playing 3 or 4 or 5 games. This goes on for 15 years. And sure, each year is a little bit more legitimate. And I may have to make a tough call to say, you know what? That season, we have gotten to a point as we go back in time. We're not going to go forward. We will continue to go back in time to say, look at this. And I will have criteria and reasons why, okay, we're done counting these ridiculous national championships from 1904 against intramural teams, club teams, high schools. Nobody's playing each other. The top teams in the country didn't play. You can go to a bunch of these seasons and see, oh, the top 7 teams in the country based on these. Well, first of all, there aren't any polls. So you just have so-and-so claims a national championship. So-and-so claims a national championship. They claim a national. This service says there's a national champion, but there's no rankings until 1936. So there's no, okay, well, let's look at you can just look at their records and say, okay, well, these 3 teams are undefeated. And then you get these 4 teams that were undefeated and had a tie or something like that. But none of them played each other. So that would be taken into consideration. At what point are the best teams in the country playing each other? Because if you've got 7 teams scattered across the country and they're supposedly the best teams because they've got the best records, but none of them played each other, and then somebody just says, they're the national champion. They're 9-0. They're 6-0. They're 5-0. They're 7-0. They're 8-0-1, whatever. But they went 9-0. They're the national champion. Illegitimate. So that's going to be a tough call, but we will make it. We do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And we'll have some fun doing that. And I will have to revisit the national championships that we need to come up with a good term for this. We have adjusted the national championship standings, and some people don't like it, but that's fine. We don't have to agree. And we are not going to agree on all of them. And many of them are tough calls and difficult calls. And so I'm not saying my system is the perfect system, but it's at least logical. And we get to each season, and I explain this is why this team or these 3 teams are national champions. And unfortunately, what the result of all this is you have more national champions. Because think about it. This happens over and over and over and over. This example, 1983. Miami is the national champion. If you look it up, Miami's the national champion. The AP national champion. The coaches poll, UPI national champion. 1983. Why? I'm not saying that they should have their national championship stripped, but Auburn played a much tougher schedule. They went 11-1. And Miami went 11-1 and lost by 4 touchdowns in their loss. Auburn played the toughest schedule in the country by far and went 11-1, won the Sugar Bowl, beat a top 10 team in Michigan. Why is Miami the national champion? You know why? We through the years, these AP voters would treat the end of the season in 2 ways that are extremely faulty. Number one, they would look at these bowl games like they were playoff games. They're not playoff games. They're completely unattached. They're not connected. It's not a system. It's not a tournament. They're just individual bowl games. They're not playoff games. It does not eliminate you from the national championship because you lost the bowl game. It's just another game against a quality opponent. Now, that said, most of the time, that did eliminate teams from national championship consideration almost all the time if they were in the running for a national championship, and they lost the Rose Bowl. They lost the Orange Bowl. Yes, it knocked them out, but not because it was the Orange Bowl or the Rose Bowl, because they lost a game that, by logic, knocked them out of consideration. But in this case, Nebraska goes 12-1. Miami goes 11-1. Auburn goes 11-1. Who's the national champion? Well, of course, it's Miami because they beat Nebraska. Well, was Nebraska like the heavyweight champion or something? No, that's the other faulty conclusion that these sports writers would come to every year. Like there was like this belt, and if you were the number one team in the country and you lost a national championship game, whomever beat you, they were then like it was a belt, like a heavyweight championship belt. That doesn't make any sense either. It's a significant win, needs to be counted heavily. But for 1983, guess what? I'm going to throw another one at you. In my book, Nebraska's the national champion, Miami's the national champion, Auburn's the national champion. And guess who else is the national champion? Well, Texas gets a share of the national championship as well. Why? Mark, they lost the Cotton Bowl. That's a playoff game. They lost the Cotton Bowl. Okay. Well, they lost the Cotton Bowl 10-9. They were playing Georgia. Texas was number 2 in the country coming into that game. They lost on a muffed punt, regardless of how they lost. Even if they lost 40-0, I would be claiming a share of the national championship for Texas. However, this is the point. To extend on the point, they were winning 9-3, 4 minutes left in the game. They muff a punt. It hands Georgia a touchdown to win the game 10-9. But the key component in all of that is that Texas beat Auburn. So if you give a national championship to Auburn, which a lot of people out there do, a lot of people have reviewed the 1983 season and said Auburn deserves a share of this national championship. And that's correct. They played a brutal schedule. They played a full SEC schedule. Then they played Texas. Maryland was in the top 10, and they played somebody else. They didn't have a week off. This wasn't the current SEC of playing VMI and the Citadel and some other pushover out of your 4 non-conference. No, they played a murderer's row, legitimate games the entire season for Auburn. But Texas beat them by 2 touchdowns on the Plains. Bowl games are not playoff games. 4-way tie for the national championship in 1983. That is, I don't like that. I would like there to be one national champion, but they had a screwed up system where teams didn't play each other. So they didn't have a playoff. So the right thing to do is to award the national championship to all the teams that earned the national championship. In 1993, Notre Dame has a claim to be the national champion. Who's the national champion? Florida State. Does that make any sense? No. Could they claim a share of the national championship? Sure. Florida State 12-1, Notre Dame 11-1. The caveat there, as you guys will know, that know your college football history, Notre Dame beat Florida State. Why is Florida State the national champion? That makes zero sense. Their schedules are extremely comparable. And then people will say to me, well, Notre Dame lost to Boston College, and they assume Boston College was no good. They lost to Boston College. No, they were 13th ranked in the country. They didn't lose to like a 5-16. They were the 13th ranked team in the country. They lost to a quality opponent. And again, they won head to head. Notre Dame is either the national champion or they have a share of the national championship. So Notre Dame fans, go nuts about that. I would be on a tirade about that constantly if I was a Notre Dame fan. Anytime anyone would bring up 1988, I would say, well, we won the national championship in 1993. So again, this is the Nameless College Football Show. We are still coming up with a name. If you've got any suggestions, please leave those in the comment section, or you leave those with me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And then also keep in mind, this is the deal. We are here live every day, Monday through Friday, from now through the end of the season. January 20th, January 21st, I will be here at 10 a.m. Eastern time, God willing, with all of you. Here's the caveat. We are going to deliver a 1-hour show, and you will determine whether we stay on. So if you support the show, we will stay on. If you don't support the show, that's fine as well. We will do 1 hour. We will have excellent guests. We will take your calls. We will take your comments and questions. And we will be here for at least an hour. The one exception might be on Wednesday, because we typically have the Ohio State show at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Typically, that show kind of floats around. But every other day, I'm going to keep the back end of the show clear. We can stay on for 5 hours if you want. That is up to you. So, again, comments, questions. We appreciate your super chat comments and questions. And you can call in, and we will have an open-ended show that will run at least 1 hour per day here at the Voice of College Football. And we will have a name at some point. But before we officially name the show, I do want to read all of your naming suggestions. So if you've sent in a name, it's not gone ignored. It's not been ignored. We will acknowledge it. We thank you for it. All right. We also want to acknowledge, for sure, so you guys are here, you're hardcore, you're college football fans, passionate college football fans. But you better be passionate about your health as well. You should have fitness goals too. I cannot stress that enough. Listen up. Our new sponsor, Chris Gates of Chris Gates Fitness, and his online fitness membership called Training Camp. Training Camp is a monthly fitness program designed specifically for football fans. And it's honestly like nothing you've seen before, because it's got a combination of so many things involved at such an affordable price. Chris has been coaching people for years. He's created a community and training camp that blends fitness and sports together to help you achieve your goals while connecting with the community. So that's important as well. So you get the professional coaching and the community to help inspire, encourage, kick you in the butt when you need it. So you, like me, like just about everybody on planet Earth that has the good fortune of being in a country where we can worry about things like fitness and health, we have struggled to stay consistent in the past. Maybe we were confused because we didn't know what was going to work, what we should do, what exercises we should do, how to do them. Training Camp is here to help. When you join Training Camp, you'll get top-notch coaching from Chris. He'll deliver monthly workout plans to help remove all the guesswork with exercising. Get this, folks. I've been working out my whole life, work out almost every day. I have not been as consistent recently as I need to be. Chris is going to help me there. But when you go to the gym, and even if you bust your tail and push yourself, and even if you know some things, you're probably not, I can guarantee you are not maximizing your workout. You're getting 30%, 60% maybe out of your workout, out of that time devoted to your workout. These workout plans are customizable and designed to fit your busy lifestyle so you can stay consistent and see progress. We all want to see progress. Again, you're going to join a private online training camp community where members gather for support, participate in challenges, win prizes, and more. Training camp is centered around sustainable results, no crash diets or extreme routines. drink beer, tailgate, knock yourself out. You'll still make progress. And you get all this for less than your weekly coffee run. In fact, right now, Chris is offering a massive discount if you sign up this week going into next week. So we've got about a week left of the special rate of $10 a month. That's 80% off the monthly price. So do it right now. Do it right now. The link's in the description section of this video. We are talking Ohio State football with you next on the Buckeyes channel. Please join us there. We've got Florida State at 6, Miami at 7, West Virginia at 8, but the Buckeyes are right now.